Tony Boselli, he was a Hall of Fame finalist for the fifth consecutive year, a top 10 finalist. He was also on the sidelines for Westwood One's coverage of Super Bowl 55 in Tampa. And Tony joins us now. Tony, thanks for joining us. Let me start with you being a great offensive lineman, watching what Kansas City's strategy was with their offensive line and why that seemed like there were very little adjustments there during the game against that Tampa front four.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I mean, and doesn't it just highlight the fact that I don't care how good your quarterback is, if you can't block people up front, you have no chance. I mean, it reminded me watching that game back to the 18-0 Patriots, and they were the most explosive offense we've ever seen. And four guys from the Giants ruined the entire game, and because they couldn't block them. And I was surprised, though, at Kansas City that they didn't do more stuff horizontally, getting the ball out of his hand quickly early in that game. All year we've seen them with the wide receiver screens. We've seen them with jet sweeps, kind of getting horizontal, and we saw very little of that. And I think they put a lot of stress on that offensive line early that was unneeded. And at the end of the day, when they got behind, they just couldn't hold up. So it's tough going in. They had basically three guys backups playing. Backup left tackle, who's really their backup right tackle. Their starting right guard, backup. Now he's the backup right tackle, and you bring up your backup right guard. So it's three positions that are weakened. I mean, that's hard to overcome. And I'm just surprised that Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy didn't have a better plan to protect those guys.
I still think they were loading up for the big play, Tony, that they didn't take, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was averaging 6 yards per carry. I thought that they could run the football. And the defense that Tampa's playing, I mean, their safeties were so deep. You got to see that in person. They're basically saying, you guys want the dink and dunk, go ahead. We're just not going to let you get behind us here. Why wouldn't you take what they were giving you, as we always love to say?
We were saying it on the broadcast. I have no idea, because if you look at the first matchup in the first quarter when Tyreek Hill had 200 yards, Todd Bowles was aggressive, playing a lot of man coverage, coming after him, and they were getting just skewered. They had no chance. Todd Bowles made adjustments. Coming in, I think he knew they could get pressure with four. So we're going to rush four. We're going to play two high safeties, we'll play some man underneath with two high safeties. And he's basically saying, we will not get beat today deep. If you want to dink and dunk us, if you want to run, if you have the discipline to do that, so be it. But we know we can rush with four, and we know that you're not going to beat us deep. And I still do not understand why they didn't run the ball more. And I don't understand why didn't they test the perimeter with all their speed and just get the ball out of Patrick's hands. Because once you do that, you then could have forced Todd Bowles out of what he wanted to do. Force him to drop that extra safety. Force him to play up and be more aggressive to stop the dink and dunk. Then the shot is there over the top. But to your point, it felt like from the beginning they said, we want the big play. And it just wasn't there.
And also you have Mahomes with a bad toe, and he ran for over 400 yards just scrambling. And I thought the defensive philosophy was, let's go up the middle and let's make him run a little bit here. Let's, we're going to test his athleticism, his greatness here. And Tyreek Hill drops the ball, Kelsey drops the ball. It felt like they started to panic a little bit, Tony.
Well, if that's a guy with a bad turf toe that needs surgery, he's still not athletic. Can I get two of those turf toes? My goodness. I mean, he's making plays I've never seen. He's parallel to the line of scrimmage, throwing the ball 20 yards down the field. And by the way, I think it hit Williams in the hands and it was dropped. I mean, there was a number of plays that if they just make them, we might have a different outcome or a much closer game. There was no juice either, Dan, was the other thing. I was on that Chiefs sidelines. Early there was some excitement. As soon as it started going against them, there was no juice at all. It felt like the air was let out of the balloon and they didn't have the answer for the test. And I thought it was because I was waiting the whole time. We said it. I'm waiting for when they say enough's enough. Let's get going. Let's go fast. Let's get the ball out of our hands and go and use our speed. They never did it. And give Tampa credit because they couldn't block those four guys up front. I mean, it got worse and worse. It was like an avalanche just coming on top of them. And by the time you got mid to late third quarter, I don't think they had any answers.
He's Tony Boselli, the Jaguars radio color analyst and former Pro Bowl offensive lineman. How easy is it to block for Brady?
I think it's easier than block. I think it's easier to block for Brady than Mahomes because you know where he is at all time. all times. He gets the ball out quick, and he's great at working up into the pocket. So as an offensive tackle, you love that because it really takes away. You can take away the angles. Like if you want to go rush up the field, that's fine. I'm going to take away the power. I'm going to take away inside, and it helps you a lot. He's spectacular. And I think the other thing, and Mahomes has this as well, Dan. Anytime as an offensive lineman, you have confidence in the guy behind you, it just makes everything easier. It makes you play better. You just know that something good is going to happen. And both those guys have that quality. And it's I guarantee it's a lot of fun to play for both.
Well, Brady could step up in the pocket, Tony. Mahomes could not step up in the pocket all night long.
Well, he could have, I think, at times, Dan. This is where if you watch the tape, and this happens all the time. And Kurt Warner and I talked about it. Mahomes will just start backing up, even when the right move is to step up. It's his habit. He has some of the worst footwork I've ever seen, but he's so talented, he gets away with it. I mean, he can throw off any platform. There's no one else in the league who can do what he does. And a lot of times where you're saying, hey, step up and work the pocket, he's like, I'm just going to back up and buy myself time because I can throw it with the flick of my wrist 70 yards. And so he's very unconventional. I don't think you want to change it because he's so dang good. But to your point, there were also times he had no chance to step up because I thought the untold story that we didn't really focus on, I don't know how many people are talking about it because JPP and Shaq Barrett got all the attention. But Ndamukong Suh and Vita Vea were just bullies in the middle, and they really did press the pocket, to your point.
And you're on the Chiefs sidelines. I was watching the game last night, rewatching it. It felt like these penalties really got to them, that they were taking that to the sidelines, whether it was Jones or it was Honey Badger. And I don't know, they were getting caught up in smaller details instead of a larger picture here. What was it like on the sidelines with that?
Well, I was, we weren't actually on the side. We're in that moat, moat area right before. So I was like, we're like 2 feet. I was right by the defensive line, actually, right behind Chris Jones in that group. And there was a lot of chirping back and forth. And there was a lot of, at times, players having to stand between players. Not that it was going to be a fist fight or anything, but there was hollering back and forth. You could see the frustration. At one point, I think late in the second quarter, Steve Spagnuolo came over and got the entire defense together and spent about 5 minutes kind of trying to get everyone to calm down, everyone to get on the same page. And I do think those penalties hurt them. But if you go watch them all year, Dan, they're an aggressive group. They get their hands on receivers, and sometimes you don't get away with it. They didn't get away with it on Super Bowl Sunday.
Well, how legit do you think those penalties were in the first half?
I think most of them were all right. The one that I thought was interesting was that last drive right before the half is the pass interference on Honey Badger. I thought Brady was throwing that away. It wasn't even in the same zip code. It was so high. There's no one catching that. And so if it's not a catchable ball and there's no chance of a play being made, I'm not sure why they called pass interference there. That would be the one I was a little bit like, With that said, that drive, I don't think ever should have got down there. I was surprised that Andy Reid, I understood the first timeout he called at the end of the half. The second time after they got 8 yards, it was 3rd and 2. Why are you calling timeout there? Because if they get that 2 yards, now all of a sudden you are at risk of giving up points. And the way the half was going, I just thought, you know what? After they got the 8 yards, let this thing run out. Force Bruce Arians to use a timeout. Force him to do it. And so I didn't like that decision-making process, and I didn't like that one call at the end because I thought the ball was not even close to being catchable.
Top 10 finalist for the 5th consecutive year. You know what? The party will be even better, Tony, once it happens.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be great. I always get to this point, Dan, is you look at it. How are you going to say anything bad about the 5 guys that got in there? Charles Woodson, Peyton Manning, Calvin Johnson, Faneca, and Lynch. They're all great players. And so, yeah, would I like to be there? Absolutely. But never take anything away from them. And I always say, maybe it's supposed to be in L.A. I went to SC, maybe, it'd be even better being out kind of where I went to college and got this whole thing started. So we'll see how it works out. One thing that has taught me about 2020, Dan, don't worry about tomorrow because it can change quickly. Just enjoy where you're at. And so hopefully it happens in the near future, and hopefully next year, 2022 is the year.
Thank you, buddy. Thanks for all your access here during the year. We appreciate your time as always.
Dan, anytime. Really appreciate having me.
That's Tony Boselli. He does the Jags radio color analyst and former Jags offensive lineman.